Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. A meeting of the European Council is taking place in Brussels. Charles Michel from Belgium is chairing the meeting for the first time since becoming president of the Council. The talks are focused on the new EU plan announced yesterday to achieve climate neutrality and the new EU budget. Alexandra Zajicka, our special correspondent, reports from Brussels.
Yesterday, the European Commission presented a new long-term program until 2050, the European Green Deal. In order to help various countries meet the expected milestones, a fund of about 100 billion euros is being proposed, called the Just Transition Fund. The program presented is challenging and complicated, and for some countries might be very difficult to achieve. The European Council is meeting for the first time to discuss the complicated implications for various member countries, implications for the economy and their citizenry. The changes are called radical by some politicians, and there are concerns about the cost. Poland is dependent on a coal for its energy supply, and the Polish Prime Minister will address just that.
Climate change is the #1 priority for this afternoon's meeting. I hope we will have an agreement. Climate neutrality is a very important goal. It is also a strong signal for the future of Europe.
Polska dokonała ogromnych wysiłków przez ostatnie lata, żeby redukować emisje CO2 i żeby też
Poland has made enormous efforts in recent years in order to reduce CO2 emissions and to work on climate programs such as clean air. We will continue those efforts. We need to point out here that the cost of energy source transformation is much higher than in other countries, which had more luck and developed some of the green energy sources earlier. We have to take into account all aspects of cost for Poland, such as costs borne by society and costs incurred by the Polish economy. We are here to explain our situation to other EU members.
Energetykę atomową. I dzięki temu ma dzisiaj bardzo niskoemisyjny system.
Poza kwestiami klimatycznymi.
Besides climate change, the discussion of the current session will also focus on a budget discussions. There is no anticipation of reaching a full agreement. The negotiations are described as difficult and it will take some time to work out a satisfactory agreement. The European Commission is also to discuss an extension of sanctions against Russia in connection with the conflict in Ukraine.
Przywódcy Niemiec i Francji mają przedstawić wyniki rozmów.
Donald Tusk, the former president of the European Council, has published a book of memoirs, ironically titled Honestly. Commentators whom we asked about the book, which takes the form of Tusk's personal recollections, said the book is just another example of his vanity.
A lot of controversy surrounds not only the contents of the book, but also its title, Honestly.
Sam tytuł jest niepokojący.
The title is disturbing on its own, as honestly doesn't fit any politician and especially not Donald Tusk. He published it to remain popular and nothing else. I don't understand why, as he already has the position of the leader of the Christian Democrats in the EU, and I can't see him gaining more importance than that.
Tak do końca nie wiedząc po co.
Columnist Maciej Mankowski from the Do Rzeczy newspaper quoted parts of the book, so as he says, no one else will have to go through the experience of reading it all. Slowly, our Tuscan vacation comes to an end. A week in paradise, Adam and Eve surely fought between themselves too. A shepherd's house transformed into agroturismo near Santillano with no living soul nearby, only mountains and a forest, and a large pool and a view of the volcanic mountain Monte Amiatra. Yesterday in Assisi I did the fresco by Giotto from my 100, the one with St. Francis and birds. With Gosia we followed the footsteps of Piero della Francesco, Monturchi, Arezzo, San Sepolcro. I could look at the frescoes portraying the history of the Holy Cross for hours, just as I could look at the resurrection of the Holy Mary with Child. Officially, Donald Tusk won't be running for president in the upcoming presidential elections in Poland. However, it is still rumored that he might announce his candidature just before the elections. Next Saturday, Tusk will hold an authors' meeting with readers in one of Wrocław's bookstores.
A government spokesman, Piotr Muller, said on the Radio 1 that the president of Warsaw, Rafał Trzaskowski, will need help to deal with the failure at the city heating plant, which has left several areas of the city without heat. He also said that this is a common problem in Warsaw.
Firma nawaliła.
The company in question was privatized. I don't know why. It's easy to say now that the privatized company failed. It's easy to blame the private company. Several thousand people in Warsaw don't have heat. Streets are blocked. It's a typical evasion of responsibility.
A nie dałoby się tego jakoś
Is it possible to change it back?
monopolisty, jak pan
W
powiedział?
tej chwili takie decyzje należą do...
The decision is on the mayor, for Trzaskowski's side. After a few years of the civic platform rule, we decided to buy PKO SA Bank because some of the banks and companies are really important for our national safety.
Zakup chociażby banku PKO SA.
Tonight, at 10 p.m. UK time, when the polling stations close, we will have the results of the exit polls from today's UK general election. Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Conservative Party is the favourite to win. If the party does win a majority, the Prime Minister will be able to end the first phase of Brexit by passing his withdrawal agreement into law by the 31st of January next year.
Today's parliamentary elections in Great Britain will not only decide who will govern the country, but will help to answer the question of Brexit. Party leaders Jo Swinson, Jeremy Corbyn, Nicola Sturgeon and Boris Johnson voted early in the morning. The Prime Minister caused a scene by going to the polling station with his dog, but he did not reveal to reporters who he thought would win the race. The First Minister of Scotland, Nicola Sturgeon, and Jeremy Corbyn, head of the Labour Party, were hoping for a good result for their respective parties.
MP type of candidates, so I'm looking forward to getting him to be elected today. But Scotland's opportunity today to block out the Tories and escape the whole Brexit mess and also put Scotland in Scotland's hands. So that's
what's at stake today, Mr. Corbyn? A great victory.
The Conservative Party is favourite to win the elections. In recent polls, they had an advantage of 5 to 12 points over the Labour Party, led by Jeremy Corbyn. If this is reflected in today's vote, the Tories will win the expected majority in the House of Commons, which is likely to allow Boris Johnson to carry out Brexit on the terms of his withdrawal agreement. Many Britons do not hide their frustration at the deep political divisions and that Brexit has caused.
I was quite unsure on who to... I had an idea of who I wanted to vote for, but I think it was based... Yeah, I think it was obviously based largely around Brexit and what the next steps were, so that was, what I based my vote on.
I'm sort of sad we're here again, really. It feels like 5 minutes since we've done this, and if anything, we've gone backwards, not forwards. And it's an election that should have been dominated by Brexit and has to a certain extent, but locally at least we are deluged in the anti-Semitism row. And I think a lot of people...
I think the lies, the exaggeration, the lack of courtesy, the backslanging, the treating the public as stupid. I think more than anything, I have been shouting at radio and television for a year saying, do you think we're stupid?
The polling stations will stay open until 11 p.m. Polish time. After the exit polls results appear, the results from individual constituencies will be coming in through the night. The first meeting of the new parliament is scheduled for December 17th.
That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.